Well, let's cross now to our Pretoria studios to talk with Professor Lesiba Teffo from the University of South Africa on about what he makes of the situation. Good evening, Prof. It is a rather strange turn of events. You heard yesterday Supra Mahumapelo confirming that he will indeed be resigning. And then today you have the PEC of the ANC in the Northwest saying no, he was never asked to resign. What do you make of it all?
Yes, good evening, Vio. Look, I think Supra has a very strong sangoma because he has more than 9 lives. When he gave us his swan song yesternoon, I thought indeed it was a very, very magnanimous way of saying goodbye. Remember, he said, it is time to heal the wounds. It is time to bridge the chasm that's divided us and to move on. Now to rescind or retract his resignation tendered yesterday really tells us a lot. Yes, he might say, I had tendered my resignation. However, as a deployee, I listened to those that deployed me in the province, and I've rescinded that. But it speaks to a much larger problem in the organization, because effectively, I think they are saying, if indeed the problem is Supra, we have removed Supra, now what more do you want? Unless you want to go with the phrase of the DA that we don't have a Zuma problem, we have an ANC problem.
But Prof, I mean, just your take very briefly before I come to the point you have just raised. Do you think that Supra Mahumapelo would have indicated that he is about to resign if he hadn't been asked specifically by the president of the ANC?
No. I think clearly he was asked to resign, and he abided by that. And remember, he was put in a similar situation as the former head of state, whereby it's better to resign and keep the benefits and still be a member than to be kicked out. And he took the option that all practical human beings would have done to preserve himself and his bacon and indeed his political future. But certainly, yes, he was asked to resign.
Well, the PEC of the ANC in the Northwest was saying that no, he wasn't. But let's move. Do you think that they did what they did, in other words, asking him not to resign but to take leave, right? Because they were feeling that he might lose the benefits, as you are saying, or did they do that to actually dare the national leadership?
It's multi-pronged. You could say, is the benefit, is the career, because he can be and he will be deployed. At the same time, they could be daring the top leadership. And the top leadership is extremely circumspect, precisely because they know that kicking him out, he might be exactly what he's calling for, as others are willing in some quarters to embrace him. So they have to be cautious. They have to be circumspect, because certainly he's no lightweight. He has support in his province. And indeed, the ANC is more fractured today than it was before Nasrec. Do you want to strengthen the losers of Nasrec so that they form a coalition of the wounded, or you want to weaken them and accommodate those that can still be accommodated, especially people like Supra, because certainly his departure is going to cause some dent, so it needs to be properly managed.
Well, given the fact that he is the one who has had to appoint obviously a person of his own choice, then aren't we heading for a situation where he will in fact remain, you know, the premier in all sorts of ways, perhaps controlling things from behind?
Yeah, in terms of process, protocols and procedure, he has done the right thing. you can't fault him on that. It is within him when he's on leave, as it has happened on numerous occasions, to ask one of his own within the executive to act. But yes, who has he appointed? What I gather on the ground is that he's a close ally, and effectively he will be the brain behind the throne. And until and unless they appoint a neutral person, as I said earlier on, other than, if possible, a person outside the province. But I also know, right, there are people that I personally respect, the elders in that space, like Mr. Africa, Mr. Tolo, who have unblushing history and are respected. They could be brought on into the space just to help stabilize the province for the next 12 months or so. Or else, even somebody from any other part of the world except the Northwest, and indeed who's not belonging to either faction, because that is what is bedeviling the situation all the more.
How important is it, Prof, to keep in mind the fact that previously Supra Mahumapelo has never hesitated to kick out someone he didn't like or disagreed with, and brought in people he was comfortable with?
Undoubtedly, he has never covered himself in glory. And for me, he was overly zealous in his performance of his job, and also in trying to get rid of dissent. Look, I give him credit to the extent that he's not the one who caused all the mayhem in that part of the world. But under his leadership, it got accentuated. Those many premiers who went before him, they did very little to build on the legacy of the old man Mangope, because that was the most vibrant and infrastructurally better equipped and developed homeland. And they did very little save to line their pockets. Hence the intensity of the animosity against Mahumapelo and those aligned to him.
What does all of this do to Cyril Ramaphosa? He left the Commonwealth Heads of State meeting, rushed to the Northwest where, the place was in flames. And that evening he heard from most of the stakeholders who had a say in the matter. And at least at that point, it was clear to all and sundry that most people believed that the removal of Supra Mahumapelo holds the solution to the problems at the time. And how many weeks later? None of that has happened. Not only that, but Supra Mahumapelo now is still firmly in charge and appointing as Premier the person of his choice.
Look, the president is a process man, and I respect him for that. But that he could leave an important meeting in London made some of us to believe that we were headed for a spectacular surgical intervention. Did it happen? No. And I think it has cost him a bit, because had he not just come under normal circumstances, the expectation would not have been heightened in the manner it was. Clearly, Supra's days are numbered. It's just a matter of when. He will go, but yes, let them manage the process if indeed they don't want to at least suffer a major electoral defeat come 2019, because those who support Supra, especially at the epicenter of the fight back project in KwaZulu-Natal, if I may use that, I may say that, are very willing and ready. They are mobilizing, and I think they are gaining traction, and they would be very happy to embrace him. And I think the president is alive to the fact that, to the extent possible, let me accommodate him. But at one stage, he will have to cut the umbilical cord when the time comes.
Professor Lesiba Teffo, thanks very much for talking to us this evening.